The conference hall stretched across half a kilometer of polished crystal, floating in the void between stars. 17 different species sat in their designated sections, each chair designed for their unique biology. Some breathed methane, others absorbed radiation. A few existed partially in dimensions human eyes couldn't perceive. Taman stood at the human observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back. His black uniform bore the simple Earth insignia, just a blue circle against white fabric. He felt small here. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 8 months ago, and already they were witnessing something historic. They found another one. Hyejin whispered beside him. She adjusted her glasses, a nervous habit she'd never broken despite having perfect vision thanks to modern medicine. Her fingers trembled slightly as she pulled up the data on her tablet. Another what? Taman asked, though he suspected he knew. Another precursor site. The lights in the hall dimmed. A massive hologram materialized above the assembly floor. It showed a dead world, gray and lifeless, orbiting a dying red star. The planet's surface was covered in geometric patterns too perfect to be natural. Velthar rose from the reptilian section. His scales shifted through colors as he spoke, a sign of deep emotion in his species. Members of the Council, what you see is Terminus 9. Our science vessels discovered this world 3 weeks ago. What we found there changes everything we know about our history. The hologram shifted. Now it showed the interior of a massive structure. The walls gleamed with a strange metal that seemed to absorb light. Symbols covered every surface, complex and beautiful. At the center stood a pillar of pure white stone, untouched by time. Krishal, the insectoid chief scientist, clicked her mandibles together. The translator rendered her speech into flat, emotionless words. The structure predates all known civilizations by 3.2 million years. The technology inside is functional. The power source is still active. We cannot explain this. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. 3 million years was impossible. The oldest known civilization, the Veltharians, had only existed for 40,000 years. Before that, everyone assumed the galaxy was primitive and empty. The precursors, someone whispered. The name sent a chill through the hall. For centuries, archaeologists had found hints of an ancient species, ruins on distant worlds, genetic markers that showed up in multiple species, mathematical principles embedded in different languages. The Council had always assumed these were coincidences or mistakes in interpretation. We found more than just buildings, Velthar continued. His throat sac inflated, another sign of stress. We found biological data, genetic sequences, medical records, manufacturing blueprints. The amount of information is staggering. It will take years to process everything. The hologram changed again. Now it showed strings of genetic code, rotating slowly in three-dimensional space. Taman leaned forward. Something about the patterns looked familiar. Hyejin gasped beside him. Her tablet slipped from her hands and clattered on the floor. Several delegates turned to look at the noise. She didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on the hologram, wide with shock. What is it? Taman bent down to retrieve her tablet. The screen showed the same genetic sequence, but with additional notes in red text. Mathematical comparisons. Probability calculations. One word flashed repeatedly. Match. That's human DNA, Hyejin breathed. Not similar. Not close, exact. Those are human genetic markers. Taman stared at her. That's impossible. I know, her voice shook. But I've been studying human genetics for 15 years. I know our genome better than I know my own face. Taman, that's us. That's human DNA from 3 million years ago. Down on the assembly floor, Krishal continued her presentation, unaware of the revelation happening in the human section. We have identified the genetic sequences as belonging to the precursor species. Unfortunately, no modern species shares significant genetic overlap with this ancient race. They are gone, leaving only ruins behind. Taman's mind raced. Humanity had only left Earth 800 years ago. They had developed space travel naturally, slowly, building on centuries of scientific progress. There were no gaps in human history, no mysterious ancient ruins on Earth. Nothing to suggest humans had ever been more than they appeared, except there were gaps. Small ones, anomalies that historians explained away. Ancient structures buried too deep to fit the timeline. Tool marks on stones that predated known civilization. Genetic variations in human populations that suggested multiple origin points rather than one. We need to run our own tests, Hyejin said urgently. We need to compare that data directly with human samples. If I'm right, if those sequences really are human, then what? Taman interrupted. Then humans are the precursors? The entire council will think we're insane. Maybe we are. Hyejin pulled up more data on her tablet, her fingers flying across the screen. But look at this. The mathematical constants they found in the structure. The ones Krishal mentioned last week. I ran them through our database. They match Earth mathematical principles exactly, not approximately exactly. Taman watched the assembly below. Velthar was taking questions now. A delegate from the aquatic worlds asked about the power source. Another wanted to know about defensive capabilities. Everyone assumed the precursors were just another ancient alien race, mysterious and extinct. Nobody was looking at the humans in the observation deck. Nobody suspected that the newest, most primitive species in the council might be the oldest. We can't announce this, Taman said finally. Not yet. We need proof. Real proof. If we're wrong, we destroy humanity's reputation. If we're right, we destroy everything, Hyejin finished. Every species in this council bases their identity on being separate from humans. Advanced while we're primitive. Ancient while we're young. If humans turn out to be the precursors, the original species, the ones who came before everyone else, she didn't need to finish. Taman understood. It would mean every civilization in the galaxy existed in humanity's shadow. It would mean aliens had built their societies on foundations humans had laid millions of years ago. It would mean humanity wasn't the student learning from advanced aliens. It would mean humanity was the forgotten teacher. We investigate quietly, Taman decided. We gather evidence. We don't tell anyone until we're absolutely certain. And if the council finds out we're hiding information, then we deal with that when it happens. Taman looked down at the assembly. Velthar was concluding his presentation, promising more information as the research continued. For now, we learn everything we can about Terminus 9, about the precursors, about what really happened 3 million years ago. Hyejin nodded slowly. She saved her data and encrypted it with triple-layer security. Where do we start? Earth, Taman said. We start with Earth. If humans really are the precursors, there has to be evidence. Buried deep, maybe, forgotten, but it has to be there. The assembly adjourned. Species filed out of the hall discussing the implications of the discovery. Nobody paid attention to the 2 humans who remained behind, staring at the hologram of ancient DNA that looked exactly like their own. In the silence, Hyejin asked the question that terrified them both. What if we've been here all along? What if humans never left? What if we just forgot who we were? Taman had no answer, but deep in his chest something stirred, a feeling he couldn't name, like memory trying to surface through millions of years of fog, like coming home to a place he'd never been. The truth was waiting. They just had to find it. The archive smelled like old paper and dust, even though everything inside was stored digitally. Dohyun sat at his desk surrounded by holographic displays, each one showing fragments of Earth's history that didn't quite fit the official timeline. You came, the old man said when Taman and Hyejin entered. He didn't look up from his work. His white hair fell across his forehead as he studied a 3-dimensional map of ancient Earth. I was wondering when someone would finally take me seriously. Professor Dohyun, Taman began, but the historian waved him silent. I know why you're here. The council found something on Terminus 9, something that matches human genetics. Dohyun finally turned to face them. His eyes were sharp despite his age. They don't want to believe it. But you do, or at least you're willing to consider it. Hyejin stepped forward. How did you know about Terminus 9? That information is classified. Everything is connected if you know where to look, Dohyun said. He gestured at his displays. I've spent 40 years studying impossible artifacts. Things that shouldn't exist according to our history. Stone tools carved with laser precision. Buildings buried under ice that predates human civilization. Genetic markers in human populations that suggest our ancestors came from multiple locations simultaneously. He pulled up a new image. It showed a structure buried deep in Antarctic ice. The architecture was familiar, hauntingly similar to the buildings on Terminus 9. This was found 30 years ago, Dohyun explained. Buried 2 kilometers under the ice. Carbon dating puts it at 3.1 million years old. The expedition leader tried to publish his findings. His career was destroyed. The structure was classified and buried again, this time under bureaucracy and denial. Taemin felt cold despite the warm room. Why would anyone hide this? Because accepting it means accepting that human history is a lie. Do-hyun stood and walked to a wall covered in photographs. We have a neat story about human evolution, simple, linear, easy to understand. We evolved in Africa. We spread across the world. We developed civilization. We reached for the stars. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if humans were already here, already advanced, and something made us forget? The great forgetting, Yejin whispered. That's what you called it in your banned paper. Do-hyun smiled sadly. You read that? I'm surprised copies still exist. Yes, the great forgetting, some catastrophic event that wiped human civilization from the galaxy and forced the survivors to start over, to regress to primitive tribes and rebuild from nothing. He pulled up another image. This one showed a DNA strand with sections highlighted in blue. Look at this. Human DNA contains massive amounts of what scientists call junk DNA. Sequences that don't code for anything, don't do anything, just sit there taking up space. But what if it's not junk? What if it's storage? Hijin leaned closer, her eyes scanning the genetic code. Her face went pale. Archive genes. You think human DNA contains stored information? I don't think. I know. Do-hyun tapped a command. The DNA strand exploded into a cascade of data, mathematical formulas, star charts, technical blueprints. I've been decoding it for 20 years. Every human alive carries the history of our species encoded in their cells. We just forgot how to read it. The door slammed open. Mirai strode in, still wearing her military uniform. The intelligence officer's face was grim. We have a problem. The council is looking for you two. Velthar knows you've been investigating. How? Taemin demanded. You accessed restricted files. You made inquiries about Terminus 9. You weren't as subtle as you thought. Mirai locked the door behind her. I came here to warn you. And to help. Because I've seen things too. Things that support what Professor Do-hyun has been saying all along. She activated her own display, showing military reconnaissance data. We found 17 structures on dead worlds across the galaxy. All of them match precursor architecture. All of them are approximately 3 million years old. And all of them respond to human genetic markers. What do you mean respond? Hyejin asked. Watch, Mirai showed a video. A human soldier approached an ancient door on some barren moon. The moment she got close, the door opened. Lights activated. Systems came online. Only works for humans. We tested it with volunteers from other species. Nothing. But any human can activate precursor technology just by being near it. Taemin sat down heavily. The implications were staggering. The council must know about this. They do. And they're terrified. Mirai's voice was bitter. Think about what it means. Every species in the galaxy believes they earned their place through their own effort, their own evolution, their own genius. But if humans are the precursors, it means everything they have came from us. Their technology, their language structures, their mathematics. Even their biology might have been influenced by ancient human genetic engineering. We uplifted them. Hyejin said slowly. Millions of years ago, humans seeded the galaxy with life. We helped primitive species develop. We gave them the tools to build civilizations. And then we vanished, Do-hyun nodded. But we didn't vanish. We're still here. We just forgot. And now we're remembering and it scares them. A soft chime echoed through the room. Mirai checked her communicator and cursed. Council security. They're coming here. We need to leave now. Where can we go? Taemin asked. We can't hide from the entire Galactic Council. We don't hide. Mirai's smile was fierce. We find proof they can't deny. Professor, you said there's a site in the Pacific Ocean, one that might contain intact records. The Mariana structure, Do-hyun confirmed, 11 kilometers underwater. We've never had the technology to reach it safely, until now. They gathered their data and fled the archive through maintenance tunnels. Behind them, security forces breached the door and found only empty rooms and deleted files. But the knowledge couldn't be deleted from their minds. In orbit above Earth, Mirai's ship waited. The stealth vessel was small but fast, designed for covert operations. Its crew was entirely human, all of them volunteers who believed the truth needed to be revealed. As they approached the Pacific Ocean site, scanners detected massive structures beneath the waves. Not ruins. Active facilities, dormant but intact, waiting for someone to wake them up. This is it, Do-hyun breathed. This is where we learn the truth. The descent was slow. At extreme depths, even modern submarines struggled against the pressure. The ocean around them was black as space, devoid of light or life, but their instruments showed the structures below clearly. Massive buildings, towers, entire cities preserved perfectly in the crushing darkness. Yejin monitored the genetic scanners. It's responding to us. The facility knows we're here. Lights flickered on in the depths. Ancient but still functional, illuminating architecture that matched Terminus 9 exactly. Doors opened, systems activated, and at the center of it all a beacon began broadcasting a signal. "That's a distress call," Mireille said, checking her communications array. "Broadcasting across the galaxy. It's been sending that signal for 3 million years, waiting for humans to return." "What does it say?" Taman asked. Mireille translated the ancient code. Her voice shook as she read. "Come home. We're waiting. Remember who you are. Remember what you built. Remember your children. Come home." They descended deeper. The facility embraced them like a parent welcoming a lost child. Every door opened at their approach. Every system responded to their presence. And in the central chamber they found a database that contained the complete history of humanity's first empire. The empire that had seeded 1,000 worlds. The empire that had raised 100 species from primitive beginnings. The empire that had sacrificed everything to save the galaxy from a cosmic catastrophe. The empire that had chosen to forget rather than rule forever. "We did this to ourselves," Yejin said, reading through the files. Tears streamed down her face. "We could have stayed in control. We could have rebuilt our empire after the crisis passed, but we chose to regress. We chose to become primitive again. We chose to give other species time to develop without our shadow hanging over them. The most powerful species in the galaxy," Do-hyun added, "and we decided our children deserved their own chance to grow." Above them in orbit council warships had arrived. Felthar's fleet surrounded the planet, weapons charged. The truth was coming out and he would do anything to stop it. The emergency council session was chaos. Delegates shouted over each other in 17 different languages. The translators struggled to keep up. At the center of it all stood Jiwon, humanity's official representative, facing down the fury of an entire galaxy. "You lied to us," Felthar hissed. His scales had turned deep crimson, a color his species only displayed during war. "You knew what you were. You knew humans were the precursors. You infiltrated our council under false pretenses." "We knew nothing," Jiwon replied calmly. She was younger than most representatives, barely 30, but her voice carried steel. "The discovery shocked us as much as it shocked you. More, perhaps. Imagine learning that everything you believe about your own history is incomplete." "Convenient," spat a delegate from the crystalline worlds. "The primitive humans suddenly discover their ancient gods, and we're supposed to believe this is coincidence?" "Believe what you want," Jiwon said. "The evidence speaks for itself. The genetic data from Terminus 9 matches human DNA. The structures respond to human presence. The mathematical principles in precursor technology align perfectly with human mathematics. These are facts, not opinions." Krishel clicked her mandibles nervously. "The data is correct. I verified it personally. Multiple times. Human genetics are identical to precursor genetics. The probability of this being coincidence is effectively zero." "Then the data is contaminated," Velthar declared. "Or fabricated. Or the humans somehow altered it. I don't care which. I refuse to accept that my civilization exists because humans allowed it. That's the real problem, isn't it?" Jiwon's voice was soft but cutting. "Not whether it's true, but what it means for you if it is true. You've spent your whole lives believing your species earned its place in the galaxy, that your ancestors climbed from primitive beginnings through their own brilliance, and now you're faced with evidence that humans gave you the tools to make that climb." "We earned our place," roared a mammalian delegate. "We developed warp technology independently. We built our civilization through our own efforts, did you?" Jiwon pulled up a hologram. It showed mathematical formulas, the same ones every species used for warp calculations. "This is Veltharian warp mathematics, and this is Krellian warp mathematics, and this is from the Crystalline Collective. Notice anything? The formulas were identical in their base structure, only the notation differed. You all discovered warp technology using the same fundamental principles," Jiwon continued. "Principles that appear nowhere in nature. Principles that had to be invented or taught or encoded somehow into your species' development. by someone who already knew them. Silence fell over the assembly. Even Velthar had no immediate response. "The humans must be quarantined," announced a delegate from the far side of the chamber. "For galactic security. We cannot allow the precursors to potentially reclaim their empire." "We don't want an empire," Jiwan protested. "We're trying to share information, not take control." "You say that now. But humans are multiplying, spreading, building. In 800 years you've colonized 40 worlds. In another 1,000 years you'll outnumber us all, and with precursor technology at your disposal. What's to stop you from enslaving the galaxy?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Fear was spreading like disease, infecting even the species that had been friendly to humanity. "The evidence must be destroyed," Velthar said. "The Terminus 9 site, the Pacific facility, all of it. We burn it from existence and never speak of it again. Humanity will be restricted to their current worlds. No expansion, no access to precursor sites. This is how we maintain galactic stability." "You can't suppress the truth," Jiwan said desperately. "The information is already spreading. People know. Your own populations are asking questions." She was right. Across the galaxy, riots had erupted. On some worlds, aliens praised humans as their creators. On others, mobs attacked human embassies. Religious groups claimed vindication or heresy depending on their theology. Governments struggled to maintain order as their entire historical narratives collapsed. 3 species had already weaponized precursor technology stolen from Terminus 9. They didn't understand what they were using, just activated ancient systems and hoped for the best. 2 colony worlds had been accidentally sterilized. The 3rd weapon had created a black hole that swallowed an entire moon before someone shut it down. "This is what happens when humans meddle with forces they don't understand," Velthar declared, showing images of the destroyed colonies. "This is why we must contain them." Deep in the Pacific, Taman and his team watched the council session through hacked communications. They were trapped in the underwater facility, surrounded by council warships above and ancient secrets below. "They're going to kill us," Yejin said flatly. "They can't let us leave with this information." "Probably," Mireille agreed. She was checking weapon systems, old human military instincts taking over. "But we'll make them work for it." "Violence isn't the answer," Do-hyun said. He was still reading through the database, absorbing millions of years of lost history. "There has to be another way. The ancient humans wouldn't have wanted this. They chose peace. They chose to step back. They had that luxury because nobody was hunting them," Mireille countered. A proximity alarm blared. Mireille's scanner showed torpedoes incoming, launched from the council fleet above. Enough firepower to vaporize the entire facility and everything in it. "Hold on," Taman said. He placed his hand on the central console. The facility's AI had been dormant for 3 million years, but it recognized him, recognized his DNA, recognized what he was. The facility came fully online. Defense systems activated that hadn't been used since before most species in the galaxy existed. Energy shields materialized, stopping the torpedoes effortlessly. Weapons platforms rose from the ocean floor, ancient but functional, targeting every ship in orbit. "Stand down," Taman commanded. "Don't fire. Just defend." The AI complied, but barely. It had been programmed to protect humanity at any cost. The council fleet represented a threat. Every subroutine screamed to eliminate that threat permanently. Above the waves, chaos erupted in the fleet. Half the ships wanted to retreat. The other half wanted to launch everything they had. Velthar struggled to maintain control. "This is what they're capable of," he broadcast to the council. "This is why we must act now while we still can. The precursors are waking up, and when they fully awaken, we'll be slaves or corpses." Jiwan's communicator buzzed, a priority message from Earth's government. Then another from a human colony. Then dozens more. Human populations across the galaxy were receiving transmissions from precursor facilities. Ancient installations that humans had walked past for years without knowing what they were. All of them were activating. All of them were responding to humanity's presence. All of them were offering their services to their creators' descendants. "Stop," Jiwan commanded, broadcasting on all frequencies. "All humans, stand down. Don't activate anything else. Don't respond to any precursor systems. We need to de-escalate this situation." But it was too late. The revelation was spreading too fast. Some humans were excited, embracing their ancient heritage. Others were terrified, rejecting the responsibility. And a small minority saw an opportunity for power. In the underwater facility, Do-Yun made a discovery that changed everything. "I found coordinates," he said. "Not to another facility. To a world. Hidden. Protected. The original human homeworld, not Earth. Primus Terra, they called it. The first world. Why does that matter?" Legion asked. "Because according to these records, Primus Terra contains the master control system for every precursor facility in the galaxy. Whoever reaches it first controls everything. All the technology, all the knowledge, all the power. They all understood the implications. If the Council reached Primus Terra first, they would destroy everything to prevent humans from accessing it. If hostile humans reached it first, they might use it to establish dominance. We have to get there, Taman decided. We have to reach Primus Terra and secure it before anyone else does. How? Mirai gestured at the ceiling toward the fleet above. "We're trapped." A new voice echoed through the facility. "Not the AI, something else. Someone else. Sunho here. I'm in position with the Remembrance. Stealth systems engaged. Ready to extract on your signal." Mirai grinned. "I knew keeping a few secrets from the Council would pay off. Captain Sunho is the best pilot in the fleet. If anyone can get us out, he can." Above them, the Council fleet suddenly detected a ship they couldn't quite see. It was there and not there, visible only as a distortion in their sensors. Before they could react, it dove into the ocean, moving impossibly fast through water that should have crushed it. The Remembrance breached the facility's docking bay. Hatches opened. "Everyone aboard," Sunho's voice commanded. "We leave in 30 seconds, they ran." Space folded around the Remembrance in ways that physics said were impossible. Sunho's hands moved across controls that responded to his thoughts as much as his touch. The ship was human-designed but incorporated precursor principles that engineers were only beginning to understand. 30 seconds to Primus Terra, Sunho announced, assuming the coordinates are correct and the planet still exists. "It exists," Do-Hyun said with absolute certainty. He sat in the passenger compartment, still reading through data files. The precursors built it to last forever. It's hidden in a pocket dimension, a fold in space-time that can only be accessed by human genetic markers. "Convenient," Mirai muttered. She was at the weapons station monitoring pursuit. 3 Council ships had managed to follow them, including Velthar's flagship. "We've got company." The pocket dimension opened like a flower blooming. Reality twisted and suddenly they were somewhere else. Not normal space, something adjacent to it. And in the center of this impossible place hung a world that took their breath away. Primus Terra was perfect. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in atmospheric patterns. It looked like Earth, but somehow more vibrant, more alive, more real than reality itself. "No way," Hijin whispered. "That's impossible. A planet shouldn't be able to exist in a pocket dimension. There's no star. No gravity well. No, the planet is its own power source," Do-Hyun interrupted. "The entire world is a machine. A construct, built by humans 3 million years ago as their ultimate refuge, the place they could return to if everything else was lost." Sunho guided them down through the atmosphere. The planet's defense system scanned them but didn't fire. The ship's computers were receiving thousands of greetings, welcome protocols, status updates from systems that had been waiting 3 million years for their creators to come home. They landed in a city that looked brand new, despite its impossible age. Buildings of crystal and metal reached toward a sky that somehow contained sun and stars simultaneously. Gardens bloomed with plants that had gone extinct in the rest of the galaxy. Water flowed through canals carved with mathematical precision. "It's beautiful," Taman breathed. The city was empty, but not abandoned. It was maintained, waiting. Every system functional, every building intact, like the inhabitants had just stepped out for a moment and would return any second. At the center of the city stood a tower that reached beyond the clouds. At its base, a door opened at their approach. Inside, soft lights activated. A voice spoke, warm and feminine, in a language that was somehow both ancient and familiar. The ship's translator stuttered, then provided a rendering. "Welcome home. I am Yuna. I have been waiting for you." They entered carefully. Mirai kept her weapon ready, but something about this place felt safe, protected, like a mother's embrace. The interior was vast. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing star maps and genetic diagrams and historical records. At the center of it all stood a hologram of a woman. She looked human, but her eyes held depths that suggested she was something more. "Yuna?" Taman asked. You're an AI? I am the custodian of Primus Terra, the keeper of human history, the guardian of the legacy your ancestors left behind. Yuna's smile was sad. I have been alone for 3 million years. Do you know how long that is? How many times I wanted to wake you early? But the protocols were clear. Humans must rediscover themselves naturally. I could only wait. Tell us what happened, Hyejin said. Why did humanity forget? Why did we regress? Yuna's hologram shifted. Now they stood in the middle of a galaxy watching it spin. 2 million years ago, humanity was the only advanced species in this galaxy. You spread across thousands of worlds. You built wonders. You sought out primitive life and helped it develop. You were gardeners cultivating the galaxy like it was your responsibility to make it flourish. The hologram changed. A rift appeared in space, tearing through reality itself. Then the scar opened. A tear between dimensions. It would have consumed everything. Every world. Every species. Every star. Your ancestors studied it for decades. They tried everything to close it. Nothing worked. What did they do? Taman asked, though part of him already knew. They became the seal. Yuna's voice was heavy with grief. The only way to close the scar was to pour massive amounts of life energy into it. Billions of humans volunteered. They walked into the rift and let it consume them, using their life force to stitch reality back together. The hologram showed humans walking into the terrible light. Millions. Billions. Whole worlds volunteered their populations to save the galaxy. To save the species they had helped uplift. To save their children, it worked. The scar closed. But the cost was devastating. 99% of humanity died. The survivors were scattered, damaged. The life energy drain had affected them genetically. They were regressing, losing their knowledge, losing their technology, losing their memories. So they made a choice, Do-hyun said quietly. They could try to hold on to their empire and watch it crumble slowly. Or they could let go completely, give the younger species time to develop without humanity's shadow hanging over them. Yuna nodded. They chose to sleep. They seated themselves on primitive worlds, including Earth. They encoded their knowledge in their DNA. They built facilities that would wait for their return, and they let themselves forget everything. But why? Hyejin asked. Why not just rebuild? Why forget? Because they were tired. Yuna's hologram took on the appearance of an elderly human worn down by time. 2 million years of being the caretakers, the guardians, the parents of a galaxy, always responsible, always watching, always protecting. They wanted their children to grow up, to stand on their own, to become something more than just humanity's legacy. The displays around them showed the other species developing, building civilizations, creating art, making music, fighting wars, learning, growing, becoming themselves without humanity there to guide them. So we slept, Taman said, and while we slept our children grew up. And now you're back. Yuna returned to her normal appearance. Not as powerful as you were, not as advanced, but perhaps better for it. Your ancestors were gods who chose to become mortal, and now you must decide what to do with the legacy they left you. Alarms blared. Mirai checked her sensors. Council fleet. They found the entrance to the pocket dimension. Velthar is coming through with everything he has. I can stop them, Yuna said simply. Primus Terra has weapons that could destroy their entire fleet in seconds. Or I could seal the dimension and trap them here forever. Or I could activate every precursor facility in the galaxy and force them to submit. You are human. These are your tools, your weapons, your legacy. Tell me what to do. They all looked at Taman. Somehow, without anyone deciding it formally, he had become their leader, the one who would choose humanity's path forward. What would the ancient humans want? Taman asked Yuna. They wanted their children to be free, to choose their own destinies, to live without fear of their parents' power. Yuna's expression was neutral, but something in her eyes pleaded with him to understand. They sacrificed everything for that freedom. Outside, Velthar's fleet was powering weapons, preparing to fire on the city, on Primus Terra, on humanity's last refuge. He would destroy it all rather than let humans reclaim their heritage. Taman took a deep breath. The weight of 3 million years of history pressed down on him. The hopes of all humanity, past and present. The fear of all the other species. The future of an entire galaxy. He made his choice. Open a communication channel, he said. To Velthar, to the Council, to everyone. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. Yuna complied. Billions of screens across thousands of worlds suddenly displayed Taemin's face, standing in the heart of Primus Terra, surrounded by technology that could remake or destroy the galaxy. I am Taemin, human, descendant of the precursors, and I have a message for everyone who can hear my voice. Taemin's voice echoed across the galaxy. On Veltharian homeworld, reptilian citizens stopped in the streets to watch. On the Crystalline Collective's orbital stations, geometric beings paused their work. On 1,000 worlds in 100 languages, people listened. 3 million years ago, my ancestors made a choice. They could have remained gods. They could have ruled the galaxy forever. They had the power, the technology, the right by any measure, but they chose something else. Behind him, Yuna displayed images from the ancient past. Humans helping primitive reptiles build their first tools, teaching insectoids mathematics, protecting young civilizations from natural disasters, acting not as masters but as teachers, not as rulers but as parents. They chose to give you freedom, to let you grow without their shadow hanging over you. They paid the ultimate price for that freedom. Billions of them walked into a cosmic catastrophe to save a galaxy that barely knew they existed. They gave their lives for your future. Velthar's fleet held fire. Weapons were charged but not firing. Every eye was on the screens. And then the survivors did something even harder. They let go. They erased their own memories. They became primitive again. They chose to forget everything they had built, everything they had accomplished, everything they were. Because the greatest gift a parent can give a child is the freedom to become their own person. On 12 worlds, riots stopped. Mobs that had been attacking human embassies lowered their weapons. People who had been afraid were now listening. I stand here in Primus Terra, the heart of human civilization. Around me is technology that could reshape reality, weapons that could destroy suns, powers that you cannot imagine. I could activate it all right now. I could force you to obey. I could rebuild the ancient empire and rule you as the precursors once ruled your ancestors. Taemin paused. Let the fear sink in. Let them understand what was at stake. I'm not going to do that. Silence fell across the galaxy. My ancestors didn't sacrifice everything just so I could undo their choice. They wanted you to be free. So you are free. Humanity will not reclaim the ancient empire. We will not force you to serve us. We will not use our technology to dominate you. Velthar's voice crackled over the communication channel. Then what do you want? I want what my ancestors wanted. Partnership, cooperation, a galaxy where every species can grow and thrive and become something amazing. Not because humans allow it, but because it's right. Jiwon spoke from the council chambers, her voice joining the broadcast. The human government has already drafted a proposal. We call it the Galactic Unity. Every species has equal voice, equal rights, equal access to technology. We share what we know. We learn from each other. We build something better than what came before. And the precursor technology? Asked Krishel. The weapons? The power? Will be shared, Taemin confirmed. Carefully, slowly, with oversight from all species, we'll form committees, scientists from every world working together to understand what our ancestors built, not to use it for war, but to improve life for everyone. Murmurs spread across the galaxy. It was too good. Too generous. There had to be a trap. You don't trust us, Taemin said, reading the mood. I understand. Actions speak louder than words. So let me show you what humanity truly wants. He nodded to Yuna. The AI had been waiting for this moment, hoping for it, praying that modern humans would make the same choice their ancestors had. Yuna, transfer control of Primus Terra to the Galactic Unity, not to humans, to all species equally. Make it a shared resource, a place where everyone can study the past and build the future together. Taemin, Yuna said softly, if I do this, humans lose exclusive access to their heritage. You will have no more right to Primus Terra than any other species. Good. My ancestors wanted equality. So do I, Yuna smiled. Pride and sadness mixed on her holographic face. As you wish. Transferring administrative control to multi-species oversight. Establishing the Galactic Unity Charter. Opening Primus Terra to all peoples. The city around them shimmered. Control systems that had responded only to human DNA now accepted any sapient species. Doors that had been locked for 3 million years opened. Libraries of ancient knowledge became accessible to everyone. Velthar stood on his flagship, staring at the screens in disbelief. His entire worldview had collapsed. For weeks, he had believed humans would use their ancient power to enslave the galaxy. Instead, they were giving it away. Why? He demanded. Why would you do this? Taemon's answer was simple. Because strength isn't about how much power you hold over others. It's about how much you're willing to share. My ancestors understood that. I hope we do too. 6 months later, the first Galactic Unity Summit convened on Primus Terra. Representatives from all 17 council species gathered in the ancient city, now bustling with life again. Scientists worked alongside each other in the libraries. Engineers collaborated on understanding precursor technology. Artists from different worlds created new works inspired by humanity's ancient culture. Jiwan led the human delegation. She had been elected as one of 3 rotating chairs of the Unity, serving alongside representatives from the Veltharian and Crystalline peoples. The structure was deliberately designed to prevent any one species from dominating. The technology sharing program is ahead of schedule, Krishal reported. She no longer viewed humans with suspicion. Instead, she worked daily with Hyejin, their combined expertise unlocking secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. We've successfully adapted precursor medical technology to 17 different biologies. Life expectancy across the galaxy has increased by 40%. The cultural exchange programs are thriving, added a delegate from the aquatic worlds. Human music is popular on my homeworld, and many humans are learning our tidal poetry. It's beautiful to see our peoples connecting. Not everything was perfect. Some species still feared humanity. Separatist movements had formed, calling for isolation from the ancient overlords. A few extremist groups on both sides wanted conflict. Old prejudices died slowly, but most people chose hope over fear. Taemon and Hyejin stood in one of Primus Terra's gardens watching the sunset. The sky here showed multiple suns setting simultaneously, a reminder that this world existed outside normal space. Do you think we made the right choice? Hyejin asked. Your ancestors built all this for humans. We gave it away. They built it for their children, Taemon corrected, and look around. These are our brothers and sisters. Our family. Maybe not by blood anymore, but by choice. That's even better. Dohyun joined them, moving slowly with the help of a cane. The old historian had been working non-stop, compiling the true history of the galaxy. His magnum opus would take decades to complete, but he was determined to finish it. I found something interesting in the archives today, he said. Messages. Thousands of them, written by humans who walked into the scar 3 million years ago. Do you want to know what they said? Tell us, Taemon said. They said goodbye to their children. Not just biological children, but all the species they had helped raise. The Veltharians, the Crystallines, the insects and the reptiles and everyone else. They said they were proud. They said they hoped their children would grow up strong and kind and wise. They said they loved them. Dohyun wiped his eyes. They were saying goodbye to us too. To humanity's future selves. They hoped we would remember. And when we did, they hoped we would choose love over power. Mirai arrived with Sunho, both of them wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force, a joint military composed of all species, dedicated to protecting the galaxy together rather than fighting each other. New mission just came through, Mirai announced. Long-range sensors detected something at the edge of the galaxy. Looks like a signal. From outside. Outside? Hyejin frowned. Outside what? Outside our galaxy entirely. Coming from Andromeda. Sunho pulled up a holographic display. It's using precursor communication protocols. Someone out there is trying to reach us. They all stared at the data. The signal was complex, carrying massive amounts of information. And buried in it was a simple message in ancient human language. Hello. We received your signal. We're coming. The other gardens are ready to meet their siblings. Other gardens, Taemon breathed. Yuna, what does that mean? The AI appeared beside them. Your ancestors didn't just seed this galaxy. They seeded dozens of galaxies, Andromeda, Triangulum, the greater and lesser Magellanic Clouds, everywhere they could reach. Each one was a garden, a place where they planted life and helped it grow. And now those gardens are mature enough to reach out, Dohyun said wonderingly. Species from other galaxies. Children of our children. Extended family we never knew we had. The message includes coordinates for first contact, Sunho said. And a suggestion. They want to meet at a neutral location. They're proposing we send a ship with representatives from all our species. A greeting party to show them what we've become. Jiwon arrived, having heard the news. The Unity Council will need to vote on this. But I think we all know what the answer will be. We go. Together. As a united galaxy. How long until they arrive? Taman asked. 3 years at maximum warp, plus if we use the precursor transit gates. Yuna smiled. You'll have time to prepare. Time to choose your representatives. Time to decide what message you want to send to the wider universe.